I'm Stephen Foskett, organizer of Gestalt IT and Tech Field Day, and we are here in beautiful Denver, Colorado for Commvault Go 2019. Now, we've been coming to Commvault Go for a few years. I think my first year was 2017, and when I met this guy on a crazy trek, which we're going to talk about in a few minutes. But first, Chris Powell, you're in charge of marketing here for Commvault, and I think I've noticed a shift in the time that you've been here in terms of, well, basically everything. I mean, the company has really turned a corner here.
Yeah.
What is your strategy? What is your messaging? Like, what is this thing about now?
Yeah. Well, as we've been putting together our way forward, and you're right, over the last few years, so much has changed. But just in the last 6 months, with Sanjay coming on board and the direction that he's taken the company in terms of a strategy, we're looking at ways to evolve what our message is. So a big part of our strategy is being clear what we want our future message to be. And we announced that at this conference being around data readiness, and I can sort of unpack that a little bit. And then the other piece that we've shifted a lot is our digital means in which we're trying to get the message out. So from a marketing perspective, we have a brand new website, not just reskinned and reswizzled, but a completely turn one off, turn one on website. A lot of different investments are being made in the digital side and with display advertising, things like that. And something you haven't seen yet is some new videos that we're going to be unveiling tomorrow that we'll be using through those same digital channels.
So what is the new message? It is being ready. I mean, we talked about that at the keynotes today. It's all about, basically moving to the future, right?
Yeah. So I'll give you some of the background on this, because we did research around the best customers we have, what do they rely on Commvault for? What do they think about Commvault? And when they were telling us the stories, a lot of this all boiled down to this concept of peace of mind. So we took this kernel of peace of mind, you get peace of mind when you're using Commvault, and started to begin to think, well, what does that mean in the data world? And that eventually became about being ready with your data. And then as we unpacked that, we said, well, what does that mean? So being ready with your data really is ready to ensure it's protected, ready to control where it sits, so that's the Hedvig acquisition now, and then ready to manage it for all of the regulatory and policy needs you have. And then the final thing is ready to use it and serve it up and get value from it. And that's really holistically looking at the overall Commvault portfolio. That's what we do. We protect the data. We now have the control layer for where it resides. We manage that data in terms of policies, and then we serve it up for use cases.
That's great. And I think that's, it's much better than we make backup products.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because at least, what you're talking about is really a strategic initiative for customers, not just a tactical, are we sure we can get that stuff back?
Yeah.
That sort of thing. And I think that's really a fantastic message, to be ready. Whether somebody's, going with Commvault or not, it is important for them to be, data ready, to have their data at hand. Yeah. So now that you've got the new CEO in place, what do you think, what is he doing? What are his goals? How is he going to put his stamp on the company?
Well, I think as he's looked at the overall organization, he comes at this from a perspective of a CIO. Mm-hmm. So he was a previous CEO, but before that he was CIO. When he talks to us a lot, he's taking his previous history and saying, what did I want? What are the things I would have liked to have in an organization? And he takes it from the standpoint of what were the challenges. Some of the challenges were trying to move from to something in terms of your infrastructure. Mm-hmm. And then the other piece of this is the skills side of things, because there's a bit of a skills shortage in terms of how people can move from to. So as we're looking to evolve the portfolio, he looks at this now as a data software company, not a backup company, really. It's a data software company. And then what does that mean for us is how we really encompass the overall value we bring to our customers. So the strategy as we move forward, I think, is to think about this through the lens of data. There's so many other lenses people have used historically, whether it's your primary versus your secondary environment. There's all these different ways they've looked at their environments that are starting to change dramatically because the infrastructure environment's changing, their needs are changing.
And specifically about data, a lot of storage companies like to use the data, they just substitute in the D word when really what they mean is storage. Yeah. From the perspective of Commvault, it seems, especially after looking at the updates to Activate as a product, it seems like Commvault actually does know what data means as opposed to just storage.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and I think one of the strengths of Commvault in terms of the foundation that we provide and the aspects are the ability to really understand what your data is. So when we've talked to customers before, it's sort of some of what I mentioned earlier, but they usually bring forward 5 challenges, right? The first is, as crazy as it sounds, they're not really sure what they have. The second is they can't move it easily. So they have all these different environments, very difficult to move it around, and they need to move it around. The next is this whole policy management piece. The fourth is around just their ability to recover it. And then their fifth is they're not able to use it for a lot of the business needs that their CEO or other business leaders are trying to get to. So when you look at what Commvault stands for as a data company, as opposed to a storage view of the world, it's always a data first lens. So.
And I think that that's actually interesting as well. One of the things that folks who haven't been to Go might not understand is that Commvault is a different kind of company as well. You mentioned what Commvault stands for from a product perspective, but it's very clear from the way that things are set up on the expo floor that Commvault stands for some other things.
Yeah.
As I mentioned at the beginning, the first time I saw you was you're standing up on stage talking about going to Antarctica and going to the South Pole, and I remember kind of scratching my head over that. What is this going to result in? I think we're starting to see the results. You want to talk to me about that a little bit?
It's true. When we first started talking about this, and we were sponsoring the expedition to the South Pole with Robert Swan, and that has really evolved quite a bit for us as an overall organization. And Commvault really wants to be bigger than itself in so many ways, and we think that it's the responsibility of industry, and especially the tech industry, to stand for something bigger than ourselves. So as we've evolved as an overall organization, one of the pieces that we're now taking some leadership in is to look at the carbon footprint of data and what that means. So with Internet of Things and 5G coming at us, it can quickly get from data being a great enabler to also being a great polluter in a lot of ways, depending on how we're able to store it. And many of it's a very complicated issue in terms of the carbon footprint of data, but we think we can be part of an organization that can try to be part of the solution. And the Global Goals Initiative that was announced actually a couple weeks ago at the UN General Assembly is 17 companies, and companies much bigger than us. So it's my old alma mater of SAP, but then it's Google and it's Salesforce and Microsoft, Coca-Cola, Unilever. There's these titans of industries, and they've each adopted one of the goals and will own it for the next year in terms of trying to bring the message forward, work with industry, work with their customers.
And that means that Commvault has one of the goals too. Yes. And which one is Commvault's?
Goal 12. We're about sustainable consumption and production.
Yep. Okay. So sustainable consumption and production, and that matches with a lot of the messaging that we're hearing from you right now. Especially, you mentioned that. Even little things such as we're holding a convention. How much trash are we producing? Are things recyclable?
I think and just bring this back to Robert Swan again. Robert is one of the things he tells folks when he speaks to them is we just need to consider to think differently about the ways that we're doing things. And many times it's the things that we're doing on a regular basis that we can just do differently. And a customer conference or a conference of any kind is one of those things where it's a perfect example of where the way it's always been done doesn't have to be the way it's always done. A lot of conferences, they put the carpet down, they roll it up, and it goes right into a landfill. We're rolling up all of these materials, whether it's the building materials, the carpet, and we're donating it to a local school, to local playhouses, things such as that. So we've prided ourselves on minimizing the carbon footprint of this overall event. And we're also purchasing some offset credits for the travel of all of the people who've come to the event. So the carbon footprint, you can do all of the right things, but then you still have people who are flying to an event like this, so we're incorporating that into our plan as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of those things that, it really affects a lot of us when we start thinking about it. I mean, one trip across the continent is the same carbon footprint as a year in the life of somebody in sub-Saharan Africa. Yeah. It is absolutely incredible what we do and how it affects the world. So, so it's great to see that you've made this something that Commvault cares about and that you're going to do something about as well. There's other aspects as well, though. We come here and, I think one of the greatest things, too, is to get a chance to, meet with some of the Commvault people, some of the people who've been here for many, many years. Yeah. You've got, a lot of camaraderie. You've got a lot of, real personal feelings from people who work here. You know, how do you maintain that, especially through a transition like you're going through with the executive team and so on?
You're totally right. There's a cult of Commvault, right? This is a company that prides itself on our history, and one of the ways we maintain it is at an event like this. So we stand for data. We try to bring expertise together around this. We give a lot of opportunities to have real discussions. One of the mottos we have within the marketing organization is, as we're putting different materials together, it's talk to me like I'm your friend. And a lot of that is not just in the words we use, but also the accessibility. We have 45 developers who come to this show in the Meet the Experts area, and they can whiteboard and talk about the environment that customers are looking to evolve and move towards. And so I think we try to keep the culture by keeping it very real. And you're right, there's new people and there's folks who have been here for quite some time, but the passion that they all bring for this company, this is an unusual company. People come into this and they're very passionate about it from the beginning. And you can talk to people who have been here for 3 months or people who have been here for 20 years, and they all have this same sort of feeling that this company can really stand for something important.
Absolutely, and I think that that's reflected in the experiences that we have with the people of Commvault here at the show, and frankly, the show itself. I've got to say, one of the things that I like about Go is that you are not doing a show in Las Vegas or Orlando or something. People don't disappear. You know, in the evenings, you know, you run into people and you sit down with them and you talk to them, and I really love that, having that opportunity here. So thank you very much for involving Gestalt IT and Tech Field Day. It's been great to be here. If you've enjoyed this conversation, please do head over to gestaltit.com. You'll see video recordings there where we actually talk about products and data protection and stuff, but you know, this is a little bit different. You can also go to techfieldday.com or youtube.com/techfieldday, and you'll find in-depth technical discussions between the Tech Field Day delegates and the Commvault staff about some of the new products, which I didn't even let you get a chance to mention, including Metallic, a new Commvault venture, and the acquisition of Hedvig. You'll learn a lot more about that by looking at those videos from Tech Field Day side. But thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.